this time, we've got Sporting Kansas City manager Peter Vermes, as well as new homegrown signings, Ian James and Jack Kortkamp. We'll start off with opening comments. Ian or Jack, who wants to go first?
I'll take it here. I just want to give a couple of thank yous first to all the people that made this, last couple of days special to me. To all the people working behind the scenes in media, setting up this press conference, doing all the social media stuff. Big thank you to them. All the coaches, staff, and support staff at the academy who have really helped me, push me along the way and helped me on the journey to get here. Big thanks to them. Second team staff as well, giving me opportunities this season in order to, show myself at the next level and gain some experience was also a very good thing. So big thank you to them as well. And then all the first team staff and technical staff who have, welcomed me up whenever I've come up and trained here. Preseason last year made it really easy to kind of integrate with the team. And then big thank you to Mike Burns and Peter Vermes here for, making my dreams of playing professional soccer come true. And then on that note, teammates also. Really big thank you to all the teammates who I've had, whether it be with the first team, the academy, or the second team, and even my time back when I was playing youth soccer in Minnesota. They've made it, really, really, they've helped me, push me to get to a bigger and better level. And I think I'd be silly if I didn't thank my guy Ian up here. He's been with me every step of the journey. We've been academy together, second team together, first team together, national team together. We've been doing everything together. So big thank you to him for, being by my side during all of this, and I'll give the mic to him now.
Just like Jack said, thank you to all the support staff, the social media people making all this happen behind the scenes. Thank you to all the coaches in the academy. Thank you to all the coaches in the second team because they've all played a big role. Coach Declan specifically has helped me grow as a person and a player so much, so I want to give a big shout out to him. Thank you to the first team coaches staff and the technical staff. Like Jack, I got to go to preseason, which was a great opportunity. They made it a very easy transition for me, which is something I'm very thankful for. Thank you to Coach Peter and Mike Burns for giving me the opportunity. This is the dream I've had since I started playing soccer at 4 years old, so I'm really happy to have made my dream come true. Gotta thank Jack because this is an incredible opportunity to sign a professional contract with not only a teammate, but one of my best friends. So like you said, we've been doing this and we've been on the same journey together for a while, so it's a great opportunity, and thank you to my family who have sacrificed so much for me to get here. My dad and brother have moved halfway across the country to support my dream, so a big thank you to them. My mom still lives in Minnesota, but comes and visits every weekend, so I'm very thankful for her and all my family for all the sacrifices they made.
I think I got ahead of myself. Yeah, thank you to my my family and my wonderful host family as well. It's not easy to take somebody into your home. So big thank you to my host mom who's right here. And, the rest of them, they made it really easy coming in when I was 13. And it's almost like I'm one of their kids the way they treat me. So, and then bigger thank yous to my family who, again, not easy to send your kid away. At 13 years old, you're, never thought that you'd be sending your 13-year-old kid away before you send your older daughter to college. So it's definitely been harder on them than it has been for me. But, big thank yous because they've been the biggest part of this journey since I started playing soccer, and I'm glad that they got to, see their sacrifices pay off.
With that, we'll open up to questions. First question will go to Daniel Sperry with the Kansas City Star.
Before we go, I'm going to say something. A couple things. First off, I think both families, you guys have done a great job with your children here, with your kids. They're great human beings. And I think one of the big things for us in the club is to make sure that it's not just about soccer; it's about the people as well. And so, if you just listen to both of them at their age, to be able to conduct themselves the way that they are, and if I go through the years of all the different guys, and it's no knock on them, it just talks about the maturity of them and how they've been prepared and how they were raised. So you guys have done a great job, and they're in a good position. We obviously have a lot of responsibility on our side, which we take very seriously. I also want to specifically thank Betsy for all the work that she's done on the player care side, because obviously especially the fact that they're coming from outside of our territory and having to live here and all the different things with school and just travel and just all those things, that wouldn't have taken place if she wouldn't have been so dedicated to her position. So I want to make sure that she's thanked as well. The other side of it is that this journey now starts in a different way. And I know that I've told both guys this in some way, shape, or form, but I'll be even a little more specific. It's always about trying to get to this level. And once you get here, it's not about this first contract. It's always about the second contract, because you want to make sure that you do everything you can to fight for that second contract, because that then says that you're going to have a long-term career in what it is that is your dream. And so I know both of you guys have really good work ethics. They don't stop now. They actually really start. And so I'm looking forward to working with them in preseason, and it's going to be an exciting time. Not a lot of good things came out of COVID. But with both these guys having come here because of COVID out of Minnesota, we were very fortunate. And so it's pretty exciting to be able to sign both these guys to our club. We think both of them have a great future. As I told both of them, most of it and the majority of the responsibility falls on them. We'll provide the environment. But having gotten a really good glimpse of them over the last couple of years, training with us and being a part of the first team, whether it's in preseason or different training sessions, you can see the seriousness and the commitment from both guys. And I think that if there's one thing, they have an incredibly high ceiling, and we're really excited about that. So with that being said, yeah.
Peter, you kind of touched on it there, but with the opportunity to bring them into the training camp in this winter, or last winter in January, just what did you see in them in those weeks together down in Florida that made you think that, okay, maybe in a year's time these guys will actually be first teamers?
Well, I think first and foremost, we are. I think we have a very good process in which we try to make the best evaluation that we can in players matriculating through our system. And one of those big parts of that is coming to preseason, because there's a big difference between coming up to a training and then spending the majority of time with us. The other part of it too that's not easy, right, for them is the fact that they're in school. And so, again, Betsy has to work with the schools with them, and they also still have to stay on top of their work. And so there's a lot going on, but it's a great place for us to see not only what they can do on the field, but also the maturity, how they can handle that when they're on the road, because they're still young guys. It's a little bit like, I remember when Boost came up, there wasn't a lot of other homegrowns at that time. So Boost was hanging around with guys that had kids, and he was a kid. And so he had a different way that he had to adapt and adjust with the group, where these guys, there's more players that are of a younger age within the team now, so they have a different way that they have to deal with it. But that also comes with, could be other problems, right? So the great thing is that both guys are mature, and you can tell that when you have them for an extended period of time, like in preseason. And I think that process is really important. But then the final piece is that over the course of the year, I mean, they've been in a lot of trainings with the first team, and it's a really good thing for them, but it's obviously a really good thing for us to see them on a regular basis coming up to the team.
For you, Jack, and yes, same question for you, Ian, after, but just I know that decision at 13 to kind of leave what you know in Minnesota for your parents, but also for you, that had to have been like something that was pretty weighty. So what made you decide that Sporting KC was kind of where you wanted to move your development to?
I think, when I first came here, I got a tour around this facility, got a tour around the stadium, and the thing that people were always stressing was that they don't only build great players, they build better men as well. And I really think that's what sent my family and me over the edge is, I'm all for being the best athlete that I can. I want to, play at the highest level that I can. I want to reach my ceiling. But at the same time, when this is all over, when the career's all over, and you're a terrible person, it's not going to get you very far. So having the education to also be a better person as well as be a better player is, really important after and during, but more so after, because you can go on, live a good life after all the soccer's done. Once being a good player doesn't matter anymore. So I think that's definitely the main thing. Other than that, if you look around this facility, look around the stadium, everybody sees it. It's phenomenal, right? I don't think I've ever seen a better facility than where I am right now. So that obviously helped as well.
For me, it was kind of a decision that we made as a family. Where could I grow the most? Kind of touching back to Jack's point, it's not just as a player, but as a person as well. And that's something that when I came down here, it was a big emphasis. And that was something we noticed that we hadn't really seen before in any of the other academies, was the focus on growing as a person, not just a player. But on the other side of it, we saw a route for development. We saw all these fantastic homegrowns going through the program. I know I can remember watching a video Busio talking about his time spent in the academy. It's just like, wow, this seems like a place I really want to be. He has achieved so much and is continuing to achieve so much, and that's like my dream, and I want to keep pushing just like he did. So that was kind of how we made the decision.
Since Busio's been referenced twice, I remember when he was on the first team, he had to have, I think it was Seth and Matt, drive him to training because he didn't have a driver's license yet. And so I remember Matt telling me, you're talking about like a 30-year-old who's already got a family, trying to have a conversation with a 16-year-old in the car. He said he would make Busio ask him 3 questions a day on the drive because there just wasn't much to talk about. I'll start with you. Do you have any interactions like that with the grown men on the team where it was like, man, what am I going to talk about with this guy? Anything that comes to mind like that?
I think I have one great memory of this. It was in preseason. We played a friendly, and we were playing against Miami FC. The starters played 45 minutes. I came on. I played 30 minutes, and that was with the likes of Johnny Russell, Fontas, Tim Melia, and I'm with them. We get taken out, and the next group goes in, and we're sitting on the bench. So majority of my time had been spent with the kind of reserve group, and I got to play with the starters, which was a great opportunity. Played 30 minutes in that game, which was awesome. And we come and we're sitting on the bench, and we're sitting there, and Johnny's like, what year were you born? I was like, 2008. He's like, oh, man, I made my professional debut in 2007. He's like, you know what? I'm old enough to be your dad. And I'm just sitting there. I don't know what to say, and I just start laughing, and the entire bench just starts dying laughing. That's just a great memory of that, just because he is old enough to be my dad, and he was like, oh, man, he was just going through it kind of thing. So that's a really fond memory.
It's going to happen to you faster than you think, by the way. What about you, Gio?
Yeah, pretty similar moment, but every time I come up and train up here, it's like Alec Dufty, our goalkeeper coach, always finds a way to poke at Tim again, he can be my dad. You know, I am closer to his kid's age than I am closer to him, and no matter what the day is, what we're doing that day, the opening conversation walking out to the field is always something about that. So I think it was probably one of the later training sessions that I've had. I was with Ryan Shaway and Tim. I think John was with the Olympic team. And Alec was like, yeah, wait, Jack, how old are you again? I'm like, 16. He's like, Ryan, what about you? He's like, oh, I'm 21, 22. I'm like, wait, our combined ages are Tim's age. So Tim, he takes a lot of it, and, you know, Tim's a great guy. He takes it pretty well, but it's pretty cool to see.
My other question for you, I'll start with you again. Ian, you guys both have referenced how close you are and how much time you've spent together here and national teams, all that stuff. You must sit around and dream about what else is to come, right? Because this isn't the only goal. I'm curious how big the dreams get. You know, you guys have conversations about playing in the World Cup, or like how big do the dreams get when you guys sit around in your hotel room talking about stuff like that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because we definitely do that. I can think back to times where we're sitting at a restaurant and we're talking about, right before preseason, we're talking about just how excited we were to go and how excited we were to prove ourselves. Obviously, one of the biggest goals of mine is to play for the U.S. men's national team, and that's always been just becoming a professional, playing for my country, and I've got to represent my country at the youth level, but taking it to the next step and representing them at the senior level in a World Cup, in a big tournament like that, is probably the biggest dream. That's something I think we both have that exact same dream, and we've shared that. Winning the MLS, winning an Open Cup with this club, that means so much to me. This is my club. This is a club I live and I die for. So it's a kind of thing where I would love to bring, this club has so much history and has won so much, want to bring the club back to that and win some big trophies with the club.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely a guy who, I got dreams, and I'd love to play in World Cups. You know, I love to play at the highest level I can. But for me, I'm a guy who, I like to take things one step at a time. So I think my next big goal is a second contract with Sporting Kansas City. Like Peter said, the first contract doesn't mean anything. I haven't made a single pass. I haven't made a single save for this club. So I think that these next few years are a year for me to aim for that. And then on an international level, obviously just making my way up through the ranks, it gets to a point where age doesn't matter anymore. You know, right now I'm with the U17 national team. Soon I'll hopefully be with the U20s, and then U20s turns into the men's team, which is guys who are, you know, they get younger and younger each year. But like guys who are 19, 20, 35, like there's a lot of ages in there. So I think biggest goal is obviously to play in a World Cup. I think this nation has something up and coming. I think everybody sees it. The youth soccer here is amazing. And, you know, we see with the youth national teams nowadays, we're competing with guys like Argentina, who we tied, barely lost to Germany. Like, we are competing, and we're building a nation with, like, rich youth and great pathways to get them to the next level. So I think the ultimate goal internationally is to win a World Cup, but with Sporting Kansas City, it's, you know, get that second contract.
Peter, as a guy that's accomplished all the things that they just listed off as their big dreams, does it take you back to being a 16-year-old and what your dreams were like then? And I'm curious just like what your thoughts are on, obviously you're going to give them a lot of advice about how to get to all those things they just referenced.
I'm actually sitting here in amazement because I just think that it's incredible how mature both guys are. At 16, I tried out for the New York Cosmos, which is in the NASL days, and I can remember being scared, you know what. I was nervous. I can remember all that. The way that these guys have conducted themselves, because you got to remember they've come up not at 16, but even younger ages to come and train with the team, and the way they've conducted themselves has been fantastic. And I think there's a really important aspect of not only these signings, but I think it also is in a really important aspect for the club. And I say it this way, and that is, I think in any domestic league in the world, one of the most important things is the foundation of your team should be made up of domestic players. And because our league is so big, with 30 teams now this year with San Diego coming in, the pool of American players is getting thinner and thinner only because you got 30 teams, but you also have a lot of guys trying to go overseas, and that's normal all over the world, right? But to be able to have two young guys like this with the kind of quality and future that, you know, we see in them, to hopefully make them foundational pieces of the team is incredibly important, the fact that they're American guys. Because you need that foundation. And if you look at all of our teams over the years that have been incredibly successful, we've had domestic guys that have been the foundation of our team. And that's no disrespect to the foreign player. It's just that you need that domestic player base or foundation in your team, and having these two guys, and there's more to come. There's more to come on the homegrown front for sure, because we have some really good kids coming through the program right now, and you have to say a lot about our academy staff. They're doing a great job in recruiting, doing a great job in the development, and then, like I said, I think the other thing too is that what's also really difficult in this type of structure is that, and all of us face it, no matter if you're in the United States or any other country in the world, when you have an academy, a second team, and a first team, there's inherent problems that always exist, right? All the academy coaches think that all the players in the academy should get promoted. And that's as well as they should, because that's their job. Like, they have to believe in those players. Second team coach is always thinking, well, you know, I like these guys, but I don't like these guys. And that's already there. And then you have the first team coach in a lot of situations where he doesn't even want to look at any of the young players because he's only worried about the next game. And I think I'm fortunate, the fact that I've been here as long as I have, because I've been a part of the build, that we put a lot of emphasis towards the pro player pathway. And with that being said, we see that as a really important piece to building our rosters in the future. And the fact that, again, these two guys and other players before them have come through, but we see like the quality, it continues to just get better and better. It's really important for us as we move forward and we build our roster. So very excited about these two guys.
This one kind of goes for both of you, Jack and Ian, but we'll start with Jack. I guess you play in a position, I guess, Ian, you do as well, where there tends to be veteran leaders in the starting position. You are 16 years old, walking into the first team training a lot younger than those guys. How do you kind of fit in as a leader? I guess what kind of role do you feel like you play?
I think as a goalkeeper, it's definitely part of the job, and the guys up here do it, or they take me in really well. So whenever I come up or I'm at preseason or I'm just with them, like out eating lunch or eating breakfast, I try to take little things off of them. So for example, Tim, he's a veteran of the league. This guy's been in the league forever, super experienced. So I'll take more off of him. And then you got a guy like John, who is this young, hungry guy playing with Olympic teams, like really, really big ceiling as well. And then a guy like Ryan, who's fresh out of college, also willing to learn, ready to learn. And it's just a great combination to have all three of those guys. So I'm just trying to take as much as I can off of all of them. And I think I've stressed this as a player for myself like when I come up into a different environment, whether it be my first time training second team, first time training first team, I always try to kind of set the standard of like, I'm not only here to show me as a player, but I want to be a leader as well. And I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of kids that are our age don't really understand is that, they're worried about, I got to really perform, I got to make the saves and stuff. A lot of the times what the coaches are also looking at is how do they conduct themselves on the field. And I think that when I first came up for the first time, obviously there's nerves in there, but I think something that takes the nerves away from me is kind of barking at people, right? Giving instructions, giving some like information to people. And so a lot of guys will turn around and go, what's this 16-year-old kid barking at? But the guys are good about listening and, kind of helping me through that as well.
Yeah, so I think there's spent a lot of time training with the first team. There's a lot of takeaway from all of the players. They all have a lot of knowledge, and they've all been great on sharing their knowledge and talking to me. I remember lots of times in preseason, we'd be sitting down for lunch. We'd be talking about training. They'd be telling me, I saw you do this. Think about doing this instead or something like that. Just like a little adjustment that helps me get more comfortable and helps me lead. And I can say in the last couple months, Coach Carey spent a lot of extra time and he was holding me accountable. So it wasn't just do your job, it's help everyone do their job correctly. So I would say that in the last couple months was very helpful and very important in my growth because not only was he just telling me like you need to keep playing well, it's you need to keep helping your teammates play well and helping your teammates perform. So I think for me that was really important, and it's also growing into a role and you'll find your role, and I think that my voice and my leadership is something that helps me be a better player and it helps the team for sure. So it's something that I want to focus on and continue to improve on.
Blake mentioned that there's a lot of veteran people in the positions you guys play that usually get the starts. Do you have some timeline where you think that you're going to get those starts? Do you have some timeline expectation on yourself?
Talking to them or me?
Both of them.
All right.
I think that's a tough question because I wouldn't say I have a timeline. I think my opportunity will come, and something my dad always says is be ready for when your opportunity comes. So it's the kind of thing where I have no timeline. I have no idea when it's going to come, if it will come in the first game of the season or if it will come in 5 years. It's just a kind of thing where it's being ready, training every day, and being ready for when your opportunity comes. That was something that has been preached to me since day one by my dad, who's sitting back there. But it's something where there's no timeline, but just got to be ready.
Yeah, I think Ian kind of hit it right on the head. I think that, these opportunities, especially at this high level, they're not going to be like gifted to you, so there's a lot of responsibility on us too to perform in training and, show the coaching staff that we're ready. So whenever Peter feels like, hey, we'll give him a chance, you got to be ready to take it. So whether it be in 3 years, whether it be tomorrow, I'm just ready. I'm going to be ready to take it, and I'm going to work toward, breaking into the starting spot. And yeah, I don't think there is a timeline. So
Having seen guys like Busio and Jake over the last couple of years and John over the last couple of years, does that give you that understanding that, yes, when you will get an opportunity, kind of following up on that question?
yeah, I think, especially in this league, there's been a lot of young guys who have been making their debuts. A lot of guys who, I've played with on national teams or, been around in the academy environment. And, that's a great thing that MLS has going with these younger players. So it gives me more hope, that people are getting opportunities. And I think yet again, when my time comes, I'll be ready to take it because I've seen all these kids do it. So I can do it,
Yeah. I think it's something that just lies in I'm focused on my performance. If I go to training every day and I work my butt off and I do everything I can to get on the field, that's all I can do. I can control what's in my hands, and obviously the coaches have the decision to make if they want to play me or not. But it's something where I'm going to try to do everything I possibly can to get on the field because that's ultimately what I want to do as a player is get on the field, perform, and help the team win. So.
Peter, I know it's been a few years since the club has made a homegrown signing. Just in terms of being able to get that pathway going again back to the roster, how important was it to make this signing, but also maybe to help those that are kind of in the wings waiting to see, okay, there's this opportunity. It will come if I continue to work for it for the rest of those in the academy.
I think there's a big difference between signing someone and someone actually finding success, right? So let's use Jake, for example. I don't necessarily think that, and I'm saying this with total honesty, I don't think necessarily that everyone on the staff between the academy, second team, and first team were all in agreement that Jake should be signed to a homegrown contract. I think where the difference is that when you've been around the game for a long time, I think I'm very fortunate, and that is having played at a very high level and been in those locker rooms and been in those situations as a player, you really understand what kind of players succeed and which guys fail, right? And so the thing that was always really noticeable about Jake was that it wasn't so much of the quality of his play, but it was his mentality. And if you look at him on the field, I would say that the majority of even the fans, when they respond to Jake, they respond for his effort on the field. And so that comes from mentality. But what has happened with Jake, which happens with a lot of players in his situation, and that is a lot of times the effort and the mentality lead the way and all the other things start to catch up. And that's also what's happened with him. With these guys, where the difference is for me is that they have already shown the quality, but you can see the way they conduct themselves here, right? They're very mature. They have a really good understanding of what the process is going to be. Don't get me wrong. I always know how these things start as well. They always start out, everybody's extremely excited, everything's great, and everything's going to be fantastic. It's not going to be because there are ups and downs in it. But because I've gotten to know both guys, I also know that they're prepared, at least I think they are, and that's a good thing, that they're prepared for those ups and downs. And so it's not so much of when do you do the signings, because if you go around the world, it's not like clubs are signing homegrown players every single year. They come in groups, and sometimes there's some thin years. But that's also because, as I say, it's not always about quality. It's also about the right person to be able to go through that process of what it takes to be a pro. And I think these guys are incredibly prepared. But as I said, we're not done in this space this year. There's probably some more guys to come, but there's still some of the process that they have to go through as well. But these two guys, I think, if anybody's ready, it's the same thing I knew about. I can remember this. Betsy and I had a breakfast with Busio and his family, and it's the same thing that I saw with both their families. They never necessarily, the mom and dad never really spoke on their behalf. They led, right? Because they understood that they were the ones who were going to be making those decisions. Obviously, they're in the background guiding and helping in all the ways that they do, but they allowed them to sort of take on the responsibility because this is going to be their career. it's a really important aspect, and it's one that gets overlooked all the time. But I think from our perspective, we covet that because it's such an important aspect. Because it being a professional soccer player, everybody looks on the outside. It's like, oh, you played in the stadium and the crowd was great and you won the game and you made a great save, or you saved the ball off the line, or whatever you might have done, or you scored a goal. All that's great, but nobody understands all the stuff that goes in between there because nobody sees that. And I get it. Then they usually don't because they're not supposed to. But for them, there are days where it's tough. You feel like, I said this in the past. I can remember, I always knew I wanted to be a professional soccer player, probably since I was like 6 years old. But I can remember being 13 years old, sitting on the field going, oh my God, I'm not going to be a pro because I missed a penalty kick today. And then all of a sudden, another penalty kick came up, I scored, and then I scored again. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be a pro again. And that's all in the course of 90 minutes. And so it's in your own brain, you're trying to mentally find your way. And for these guys, there's going to be times where it's going to be tough. They're going to feel like, the coach hasn't said anything to me all week. What's going on? That's part of the process. I'll tell you an unbelievable story. I won't tell you the player's name, but there was a player years ago, not years ago, but a few years back, always a starter. And he wasn't in good form. And he was out for like 2 weeks, but it wound up being like 4 games because we were playing on the Wednesdays. And I remember him coming to me and he's like, look, I feel like, I'm being pushed aside. I said, and what he meant by, like, he's not getting any attention. And I said, that's absolutely not the case. The difference is you're always with the starting team. And so you wind up spending a lot of time with me. When you're not with the starting team, unfortunately, you're with the other coaches because I'm getting them prepared for the next game. And you have to be able to handle those things, and you learn that over that time. The fact that those guys are going to get that this early, that's why I say, like, they have a chance to have a really, really long career because of the maturity already.
Jack, I wanted to ask specifically your situation with just the host family at a young age, leaving home. You just talk about how, like, the experience of living with the host family and how you feel like that's kind of shaped you as you developed as a
You
player.
should ask the host family. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I think not a lot of kids get to do that, and my host family's been amazing with everything. They have brought me into their home, treated me like their own kid, and I did a host family documentary, and there's nothing bad to say about them at all. And I think how that kind of shaped me as a person is I've always been a guy who can adapt to things, and it's just another situation to adapt to. So at first, coming in, like, these are random people you're living with, and obviously now looking back, it's like, these people are second family to me, but it is weird at first. And as the years went on and we got closer and closer, it's been like amazing, second family, and no regrets at all.
To acquire their rights from Minnesota, I know there had to be some compensation. Can you talk about that at all? Or
You know what's great? I get the chance to say that, unfortunately, Mike couldn't be here. He wanted to. But I'm glad I'm here because I've been around these guys. But that's something that Mike would normally answer. And so I'd have to leave that for another time for him.
How about rephrase? Just how much you wanted them in this team, this club, is that you were willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah, I think that comes. It's become more a part of the landscape, right, all over the league. Because I think the other thing that maybe it was kind of like referenced, but it really wasn't, brought out in an emphasized way, and that is every team in the league has a pro player pathway, but not everybody really uses it. Some teams use it more than others, maybe because their environment is more fertile than others. For us, like I said before, one of the things for us is we have to go outside of our territory a little bit more. And so being able to bring these two guys here was, I remember going through it with the staff and them saying, well, we've got all these guys coming down from Minnesota, and we don't have a lot of clarity on whether we can or we can't. And there was a little bit of a tussle, I will say, with the league in Minnesota because different things changed. But at the end of the day, we came to an agreement, and it's important for the process. So getting these guys was great for us. So no regrets in that regard whatsoever.